Okay?
So, I was just curious. We seem to have lost some of our regular people, like um, Zara and oh, can't think of his name right now. He was
Brendan.
a counselor.
Brendan. And
Sorry,
Matt. And Matt.
Matt. Yeah, and Brendan. And do you think it's the subject matter? Is it they've just kind of moved on, that they have other commitments now during this time, or do you
Well, I've
know?
talked to each of them, and Zara is in the midst of a 3 year program with Drupal Tinley Ningpo.
Mm-hmm.
So she's made that a priority. She's going through the four uncommon preliminaries, the
Mm-hmm.
Nundro practices of the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra. So she's made a good commitment for that, and she's been keeping the commitment, and that is that that's enabling her to be able to move forward and so on. This is a more advanced practice, so her doing that I think is very wise. Matthew has been taking a break. He's gotten swamped with a number of things. He got a new job position, which really uh, demands that he has much more time for his job. So he's had to give this up for a time. But I just talked to him, and he's going to come and see me soon, and he wants to re-engage now. He's ready to re-engage in the fundamentals. So we're going to be doing that with him. And Brendan has been coming and going, but he usually watches on YouTube. He's got a family. He's got a big family, and he has commitments at work and so on. He travels quite a bit. So from the very beginning, we knew that he was going to have to be here sometimes and not here other times, but he would participate on YouTube.
And then my other question is, we never we never did this.
The King of Samadhi. No, we're going. That's coming up.
Okay.
That's
I
coming
still
up.
have it in my stack here.
No, we're not. We haven't forgotten that, and it just it just seemed that this was a more opportune time to get into the Bardo Thodol, and I think and by learning about the Sambhogakaya, you see, will help us to prepare for the King of Samadhi. So I think all this is there is a logic, a progression to what we're doing here.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. Very good. So would someone like to volunteer to do the opening prayers, or shall I choose someone?
If I can.
All right. Very
Which
good.
one? What do you want me to do?
Well, please just do the short refuge prayer and the six or the four immeasurables of bodhicitta, and then go to page 14 in this text in the Bardo Thodol and do the purification from that text. So if you'll do that, please.
All right. So the short refuge prayer. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye chodang soki chog namla changshu bardu dakni kapsuchi dagi jin soki peso namki drola pinchir sangye drupar shok. Four immeasurables. May all mother sentient beings balance the sky of happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all other sentient beings balance the sky, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadang nam pesam chan tamcha dewa dang dewe gudang dempar jerchik. Dugna dang dugna ki gudang drawa jerchik. Dugna mepe dewa dang mi drawa jerchik. Niring chakdang nidang drewe tong nam lenama par jerchik. Do you want me to read everything or just the prayer?
Now, please read everything.
Natural liberation of habitual tendencies, purification. It is in the unified intention of the body, speech, and mind of the 42 peaceful and 58 wrathful deities of the great Buddha field that displays the wisdom that cuts through all ignorance to manifest their wisdom for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Om Ahum Bodhicitta Mahasuka Jana Datu Om Rulu Rulu Om Bio Hum Om Ahum Bodhicitta Mahasuka Jana Datu Om Rula Rulu Om Biom Sum Om Ahum Bodhicitta Mahasuka Jana Datu Om Rula Rulu Om Bo Hum. From the field of reality's expanse, uncreated and pure, within a celestial palace, which is the seminal point of light, pure, unceasing, and radiate, through the unnatural expressive power of one's own mind, uncontrived and empty, intrinsic awareness, radiant and empty, arises in the form of Vajrasattva, seated upon a bejeweled throne adorned with lotus, sun, and moon cushions. The right hand holds a Vajra at the heart, symbolizing the union of awareness of absolute wisdom and emptiness. The left hand supports a bell resting on the hip, symbolizing the union of wisdom, appearance, and emptiness. And the head is adorned with the garland of perfect Buddhas, representing the 5 enlightened families of those gone to bliss. Thus, Vajrasattva manifests in the form of the Buddha body of perfect resource, exquisitely adorned with silk and jewels, seated in the posture of royal ease, with the right leg extended and the left drawn in. Radiating at the heart is the seed syllable Hum, surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tinopa Drista Dredo Mebawa Sudokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakti Mebawa Sarasiti Me Prasha Sarva Karma Sutsame Sutsantriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sarva Tathagata Bhadramami Matsi Bhazibara Mahasamaya Sawa Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tinopa Drista Dredo Mebawa Sudokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakta Mebawa Sarasiti Me Prasha Sarva Karma Sutsame Sutsantriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sarva Tathagata Bhadramami Matsi Bhazibara Mahasamaya Sawa Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tinopa Drista Dredo Mebawa Sudokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakta Mebawa Sarasiti Me Prasha Sarva Karma Sutsame Sutsantriya Kuruham Ha 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 ho Bhagawan Sarva Tathagata Bhadramami Matsi Bhazibara Mahasamaya Sawa.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to continue with part 3, the elucidation of the intermediate state of rebirth. So now we have failed to be able to recognize our nature in the bardo of reality, and we have slipped through into becoming having a rebirth as either a human being or an animal or an insect. So it's to be determined. So in this part 3 is how this manifests, how this happens, how this comes together. So once again, this is all symbolic. So we need to be able to understand this from the point of view of a meditator who is experiencing going through the bardos, the bardo of living, bardo of dreams, bardo of meditative concentration, the bardo of death, the bardo of reality, all within being on the cushion through the meditation practice. And then we come to the point where it's now time to leave our cushion, so to speak, and we are reborn as a human being on the cushion, and we are getting up, and so now we're preparing ourselves to be able to be whatever closer we can become to the bodhisattva on the cushion, to become a Buddha, to become enlightened. So we are reading this, for the sake of some human being who has passed away, hoping that they have been studying this themselves, and that we are reciting this in such a way that our heart is radiating the transmission of this to their heart in order to guide them through these bardos. But it's more or less assumed that that person would be familiar with all the terminology and all the visions and so on as being within their own experience. So the goal here is to be able to be liberated, to eject oneself from the bardo of suffering, or rather from the bardo of living, from the ocean of suffering, into a nirvana that remains constant and permanent, to become enlightened. So we went through the bardo of elucidation last time, explaining this experience in the third part here in the bardo of rebirth. And now we are going to obstruct the womb entrance. So this is the second time that we've had an opportunity to do this. We did this when we were in the second part, when we were talking about the Matara and the Pasachi, about blocking the womb entrance. So now here's another opportunity for us to be able to do that. There are several periods, there are several times during this recitation of the Bardo Thodol where the being going through the bardos can rescue themselves through the Sambhogagaya, through these deities, to be able to pull themselves back from what seems to be the eventuality that they're going to be reborn in a womb or an egg birth or a heat and moisture or miraculous birth, that they can rescue themselves. So now here is another opportunity to be able to do that. So I'm going to read this straight through. I'm going to recite this, and then we can talk about it. So I'm on page 174. So if you have questions, please just mark them down, and we'll get to them at the end. This section is not quite as long as the section that we did last time, so we should have more time for discussion. This is part 3, the obstruction of the womb entrances. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Pema Dorje. If you have not taken to heart the introduction which has gone before you, from now on, the body of your past life will grow more faint, and the body of your next life will grow more vivid. At this you will be dismayed, and you will think, I am experiencing such misery. Now I will look for whatever kind of body I can find. Thinking in this way, you will move haphazardly and randomly towards whatever might appear, and consequently the 6 lights indicative of the 6 realms of living beings will dawn, and according to your past actions, the light of the realm into which you are to be born will shine most of all. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Pema Dorje, listen. What are these 6 lights, you may ask? A dull white light, indicative of the realm of the gods, will arise. A dull red light, indicative of the anti-gods, will arise. A dull blue light, indicative of the human realm, will arise. A dull green light, indicative of the animal realm, will arise. A dull yellow light, indicative of the anguished spirits, will arise. And a dull smoky light, indicative of the hell beings, will arise. These 6 lights will emerge, and at this time you will present your body Your present body will take on the color of the light of the realm into which you are to be born. So please notice on page 174 and 175 are these spheres, and that are meant to be those colors of the dull colors of the six realms. So you can see that, and then within there is a shoot, a ray, a beam of light, which is the intense light, which is the very bright light of the Buddhas that we first introduced in the Bardo of reality with the peaceful deities. So we are attracted to the light. It's either if we are repelled by the bright light because it's so intense, it arouses fear in us because we're not prepared for it, then the dull light becomes a comfort to us. There's a familiarity with it. And so we may connect with that dull light. And that assures us that we are going to be born now in one of those realms. So back to the middle of page 175. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Pema Dorje. At this juncture, the essential points of the oral instructions are extremely important. Meditate now on the bright light rainbow light that dawns as being Mahakarunika. Meditate on the thought that when the light dawns, it is Mahakarunika. This is the most profound, crucial point. It is extremely important because this oral instruction obstructs birth. Alternatively, you should meditate for a long time on your meditational deity, whichever it may be. Meditate on the deity appearing like an illusion, completely free from inherent existence. This is called the practice of the pure illusion-like body. Accordingly, dissolve the form of the meditational deity from the extremities inward, and it disappears completely, and abide in the resultant state of emptiness and radiance, where nothing at all substantially exists, and where there is no subjective apprehension. Meditate yet again on the meditational deity. Meditate again on the inner radiance. Meditate alternatively in this way. And after this, dissolve your awareness itself from the extremities inwards into emptiness and radiance. Wherever there is space, there is awareness. Wherever there is awareness, there is the Buddha body of reality. Abide nakedly, therefore, in the state of the unimpeded Buddha body of reality, free from conceptual elaboration. Abiding in this state, birth will be obstructed and Buddhahood will be attained. So the practices that we may have been doing up to this time, maybe it was Shenreizig, Avalokiteshvara, Mahakarunika, maybe it was Medicine Buddha, maybe it was Green Tara, White Tara, maybe it was Chakrasamvar, so many of the different deities that we may be doing that we are relating to this, that these are our meditational deities. So if we're familiar with this, it helps us. And we may say, oh, I want to visualize Medicine Buddha, Sangye Menla, because that's my personal deity. So we're visualizing that. So that deity will shine its light, or we will receive light. We will recognize that light within ourselves because that deity is within ourselves, and that becomes our guidance back to the Bardo of reality, along with the other peaceful deities, or maybe the wrathful deities, the fierce deities, whichever it is that is going to help us at this particular time. Mahakarunika is the blessed compassionate one, and is Shenreizig, and has the ability, has the power, has the wisdom and the skillful means to help all beings. Recall that if you look on page 175, on the right-hand side of the page is a very old image. This is a very, very old image of Avalokiteshvara. So Avalokiteshvara is standing, showing that there is activity, not sitting, but standing, that there is a movement to the presence of Mahakarunika. This is Mahakarunika, standing on a white moon disk, indicating compassion, and has 11 heads, and each of the heads represents levels of the different Buddhas, the different yanas, and around the center is 1,000 arms and hands of Mahakarunika, showing that they have eyes in each of the palms of all the hands that sees all the suffering of all beings, sees the causes of all the suffering of all beings. And with the hands, it's harder to see here, but with the 6 hands that are in the, or maybe it's 8, excuse me, that with those implements is able to help those beings, help the being itself, who is Avalokiteshvara, to be able to overcome, to neutralize any negativities and bring those negativities along onto the path of liberation, along with the wisdom that enables that neutralization. So this is the importance, this is the significance of Mahakarunika. So all the wisdom and compassion of all the Buddhas is embodied in Mahakarunika. So now the bottom of page 176. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje, if you have not attained recognition as a result of the introductions which have gone before, then based on the potency of your past actions, the perception will arise that you are moving upwards, or moving horizontally, or moving downwards. As this occurs, you should meditate on Mahakarunika. Remember this. Yet again, as described before, the experience will arise of being pursued by whirlwinds, blizzards, hail, or fog, and a crowd of people, and you will be trying to escape. Those who are lacking in merit will experience they are fleeing towards a place of suffering. Those with merit will experience arriving at a place of happiness. So there is a choice here. They're fleeing from towards a place of suffering, or those with merit are arriving at a place of happiness. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje. Now, at this point, the signs of the environment into which you are to be born, on one amongst the 4 continents, will arise. Specifically, for this moment, there are many profound essential points of oral instruction. Therefore, listen now without distraction. Even though previously you have not taken to heart the essential instructions introduced to you, you can do so now. For even those whose practice is very weak can understand and apply one of the following essential instructions. So listen now without distraction. At this stage, it is extremely important that you carefully employ the methods for obstructing the womb entrances. Principally, there are 2 such methods of obstruction. There are, first, the method which obstructs the person who is to enter the womb, and second, the methods which obstruct the womb which is to be entered. So the person here, the entity here, has already, if they did not have the merit to be at this stage, they may have gone into an egg birth. They may have gone into a heat and moisture birth. They may have gone into a miraculous birth, being born into the lower realms. But now we're dealing with someone, ourselves, who has the merit, has understanding of the symbol Gaia and so on, and now is being able to make choices in the Bardo of becoming. How to block the womb entrance. We can block it first by ourselves saying, I'm going to close the womb entrance. I'm not going to enter the womb entrance. The second part is to close the womb entrance itself. In other words, to say, we haven't been able to be strong enough to be able to say, I'm going to close the womb entrance. But through my practice here, through my merit and so on, that the womb entrance is going to be closed for me through that merit. So this is the choice. So the first method here, it says, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchuk Pema Dorje. Visualize now. This is number one, the method number one. Visualize now your meditational deity, whichever it may be, with vibrancy. So the meditational deity, whoever it is, Mahakarunika, Medicine Buddha, Green Tar, whatever it is, there's a vibration that is going along, and not necessarily fixated on the image, but that there is this sense of energy that is vibrating, that we would call, this is the energy of Green Tar, this is the energy of Sangye Menla, this is the energy of Mahakarunika, and it's vibrating. Meditate on the deity as vividly apparent, yet completely lacking inherent existence. Like the reflection of the moon in water, if you do not have a specific meditational deity, then visualize the Lord Mahakarunika, again with great vibrancy. Then gradually dissolve the image of the meditational deity from the extremities inwards until it disappears completely, and then meditate on the resultant union of inner radiance and emptiness, which is utterly free from any objective referent. This is the profound essential point. Meditate in this way, for it is said that by this means entry into the womb will be averted. So if you've been able to receive any teachings, if you've been able to practice any deity yoga practice, we've been taught to recognize the deity in a human form to help us to recognize that energy. That anthropomorphic image helps us to recognize that it is within us. It is our energy and so on. And that what we do is we visualize on the form of that particular deity, and then we visualize on the eyes. We look at the eyes and that image and so on. The eyes are drawing us in. And then we visualize on the extremities, on the hands, the implements that are in the hands, the leg positions, where the feet are, and then we're taking that energy and consolidating that energy into the body of the deity, which is within ourselves. So this is something that you may have been taught to do during the deity yoga empowerments and practices. If you haven't, and this is the first time you're hearing it, now we're seeing a practical application of doing that, of now in this Bardo of becoming, this Bardo of rebirth, that now we're taking that energy, we're using that energy again to help us to remember that we are that deity, that we are all these deities, are all within ourselves. So we're starting at the extremes, and then we're bringing it into the center, bringing it into our heart center through the deity. So now page 179. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje, listen carefully. In the recitation of the root verses of the 6 intermediate states, the following lines are spoken. Repeat these now after me. Alas, now, as the intermediate state of rebirth arises before me, I must, with one pointed intention, concentrate my mind and resolutely connect with the residual potency of my virtuous past actions. I must obstruct the womb entrance and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. I must give up all jealousy and meditate on my spiritual teacher with consort. It is extremely important to clearly repeat these verses aloud, to arouse your memories of the past virtues, to meditate on this prayer, and to experientially cultivate the meaning. So this prayer is part of the recitation of our first daily prayer, the six root verses, or the root verses of the 6 intermediate states. When we began this introduction to the Bardo Thodol, we repeated this for several weeks. So you've got that. It's on page 1 or 2, whatever it is, in the book and so on. And this passage here that we just read, this stanza, is there. So we're familiarizing ourselves, we're remembering the six root verses. So here in this prayer it says, "Alas, now the intermediate state of rebirth arises before me." So now it's become quite obvious that's what's happening. I must, with one pointed intention, concentrate my mind. So if we haven't, up to this point, developed one-pointed mindfulness meditation, it's going to be very difficult to be able to do so at this point. So this is why now in the Bardo of Living, we have the opportunity through the Bardo of Dreams and the Bardo of Meditative Concentration in particular, we're able to develop that one-pointed mindfulness. And then to resolutely connect with the residual potency of my virtuous past actions. So this is my past karma. This is the good past karma. These are the things that I have been able to accumulate. These are the things that I've been able to embody through my practices of Dharma and so on, to resolutely connect with the residual potency, that strength that is there. It's still there. It's residual in that it hasn't dissipated. It has stayed with me, of my virtuous past actions. I must obstruct the womb entrance and call to mind the methods of reversal. I'm thinking to myself, oh, I have done good deeds. I have a choice now. I can either look to the negative. I can be interrupted by that. I can be distracted by the negative, or I can separate myself or cut that off, and I can concentrate on the virtuous things that I have done. And through this, I'm able to enact the methods of reversal. I am moving downward now into being reborn into a body. I still have the power to reverse that and to bring myself back to the Bardo of reality, back to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, the wrathful Buddhas, the female Krodhesvari, the queens of the expanse, and so on, that we've been talking about up to this point. So call to mind the methods of reversal, what they requested of us, but at that time we said no, we can't do that. Our ego is forcing us to move further to be reborn into samsara. So then this next line says, this is the time when perseverance, and perseverance, of course, is one of the 6 prajna paramitas, the 6 paramitas that we've learned and should have practiced and should have become the embodiment of. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. So by going through the 12 links of interdependent origination, and we go through the link of perception, and we recognize how these things are all tied together now. We're seeing where all those practices now are coming to bear in this Bardo Thodol practice. I must give up all jealousy. jealousy in particular because we are close to entering the womb. And to enter into the womb means that we are going to react to the father, to the semen of the father, and to the egg of the mother. And there's going to be a process of jealousy. Jealousy if you're to be born as a woman, jealousy if you're going to be born as a male. And so we can go back and we can read those parts where this was detailed to us. But there is this jealousy, and maybe in your own life you can relate to, well, the relationships that I had with my father and mother were quite dynamic, and there was a different love between my father and my mother, or between me and my father and my mother, and so on. And you can see where there might have been some jealousy. Maybe it was when you were 3 years old, maybe it was when you were 33 years old, but we see that this dynamic, this understanding, this experience of jealousy has been part of our psychology, part of our lives already. And so we're trying to prevent another episode of this through our next rebirth. So it says, I must give up all jealousy and meditate on my spiritual teacher with consort. So as we read before, we visualize that the womb is the womb of this male and female who are in sexual embrace. And we think of them, we have to convert our thought that this is not just a male and a human, a male and a female human who I'm going to then merge with, but this is a spiritual teacher. This is a spiritual deity. This is something that is beyond just ordinary rebirth. And that itself says, oh, I should not enter here because I'm now a spiritual body. And if I go and enter thinking that this is an ordinary body, I'm going to lose that spirituality. By step, as I engage with this, I begin to my spirituality begins to degenerate and so on. I become swamped with the power of the physical body and the intellectual mind, being a human being. So we recite this 3 times, and we do that in many places, in our prayers and so on. Once is like a course reading, what the words are. Then the next one is the inner meaning of what the words mean. And then the third recitation is to really understand the embodiment of it within ourselves, how this impacts our life to be, or what we are now at this point and so on. So we recite this 3 times. We can recite it many more times than just 3 if we choose to. No problem. You can take time and go back, and you can refer to other parts of this to refresh your memory of what these different elements were and so on. So it doesn't mean that you have to speed read through all this. You can go back, and this is your opportunity to do that when we're using the Bardo Thodol as a practice to understand the Sambhogagaya, to prepare ourselves. Death is not imminent for us, but we were preparing as a bodhisattva for what will be our eventual death, this whole process. So now we come back to page 180, to the top of 180, the first line that says, the meaning of these verses is as follows. The line, now as the intermediate state of rebirth arises before me, explains that you are now roaming in the intermediate state of rebirth. As an indication of this, if you look into water, you will not see your reflection. Your body does not even cast a shadow. These are both signs that you do not have a solid body of flesh and blood, but that you are roaming with a subtle mental body in the intermediate state of rebirth. So this mental body is we talked many times about having a big mind and a little mind, and that this spiritual body is when those two are coming together. But we can say that the mental body or the intellectual body, and the spiritual body have come together. But now it says you are roaming with a subtle mental body. So this mental body would be this body of being this intellectual part and the spiritual part. But it's really more the spiritual part at this point because we don't have a brain, and our thoughts are like heart thoughts, and the language that we're thinking these thoughts in are like light. It's not English, it's not Spanish, it's not Sanskrit. It's a language that is beyond being a human being. We're not a human being yet. We're slipping into becoming a human being. But at this point, we're still a spiritual body. It's still spiritual energy. If it weren't, we wouldn't be able to rescue ourselves and we wouldn't be able to reverse this. So it's still spiritual energy. You can experience this on the cushion now in your meditation. And that's what we meditate for, is to recognize that spiritual energy, that spiritual body that we have, that we are part of. So now back to page 180 in the middle. It says, now, therefore, you must, with one pointed intention, concentrate your mind undistractedly. At this moment, this singularity of intention is by itself the most important factor. It is like a horse being controlled by the use of a bridle. Whatever your intentions focus upon, this will come about. Do not turn your mind to past actions. Call to mind now your connections in the human world with the sacred teachings and instructions. Remember the empowerments and oral transmissions previously received. Remember your connection with this liberation by hearing in the intermediate states and so forth. It is extremely important that you resolutely connect with the residual potency of your virtuous past actions. Do not forget. Do not be distracted. So, if you have been able to meditate in a very practical way on the cushion, on a chair, and you have been able to go through the stages of meditation, the shamatha meditation, the vipassana meditation, and then even to the deity yoga, and be able to visualize yourself through the empowerment and through the practice of the empowerment and so on, to become the deity and so on, you should recognize that there have been times when you have been completely lucid. Your mind has been completely clear. You've been free, although temporarily, from being an ordinary human being. What is it that pulls you back into being a human being? What thought arises within your mind that pulls you back? This is what's being addressed here, because it's this thought, whatever those thoughts are and so on, that we need to be able to say, I'm not going down that path. And I have the ability to be able to do that successfully because I practice it on the cushion. Now you're in a situation where those thoughts are coming into you, they're crossing your mind and saying, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that in my next birth, rather than saying, I want to remain as a spiritual being. I want to remain a spiritual body. So we need to call to mind when we are in that situation on the cushion. If you've been into a meditation, and let's use an example. Let's say that you've been meditating, you're able to meditate for an hour. You've done this many times. And during that hour, there might be a period where you're, as I said, you're very lucid, very, very expansive, etc., no boundaries. but then here comes a thought, and that wants to pull you back into your ordinary mind, and you say, no, I'm not going to go there. But then you re-engage with the deity. You re-engage with the practice that got you to that lucidity, that clarity, that mahamudra, that state of samadhi. You use that again, and you do it over and over again to be able to stabilize yourself in that spiritual body each time you begin to slip away. During that hour of that meditation, you might have 3 or 4 or 5 episodes of being pulled back. But 3 or 4 or 5 times you've been successfully able to get back to that state of meditation. And it's not just the state of intellectual. There's an aspect to it, but quickly that intellectual gives way to the spiritual. That those thoughts give way to the light. The language, whatever language, the intellectual would just tend to solidify ourselves being pulled back even more. But if we can remain very, very subtle in that light, then you avoid that risk of being pulled back into the body. So if we practice this on the cushion, we'll be more successful in the time of death, in the time of rebirth, in the time of the Bardo of reality, to be able to remain in the Bardo of reality. So this section here is very, very important. So now back to page 181, where I left off, the second line. It says, the present moment is the dividing line between progression and regression. That's what I was trying to explain. The present moment is the time when, by lapsing into laziness, even for an instant, you will experience constant suffering, being pulled back into the body. The present moment is the time when, by concentrating with a singular intention, one-pointed mindfulness, you will achieve constant happiness. Concentrate your mind with a single-pointed intention. Resolutely connect with the residual potency of your virtuous past actions. And you have many, because to be where you are right this moment, together here in this cyber meeting that we're having, but the meeting is cuts through time and cuts through space. It's ever present and so on, means that you have accomplished a great deal already. And there undoubtedly needs to be more learning. There needs to be more practice. But you have the ingredients, you have the abilities, you have the skills to be able to do that. Now it's a question of practice. So now the next paragraph on page 81. This is method number 2. Now is the time when you, number 2, obstruct the womb entrances. So if you failed at saying, I'm not going down that path, I'm not entering that womb, now you're coming to the point of just literally closing the door, closing the womb entrance. It is said in the verses that you must obstruct the womb entrances and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. You have now arrived at this stage. Your priority now is to obstruct the womb entrances. There are 5 methods which will bring about obstruction of the womb entrances, so keep them carefully in mind. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchuk Pema Dorje. At this stage, the perception will arise of a male and female engaging in sexual intercourse. Upon perceiving this, do not enter between the male and female, But first, be mindful and meditate on the male and female as being your spiritual teacher with consort. Prostrate yourself before them and make offerings, emanating these with your mind. Be intensely devoted and request instructions from your spiritual teacher and consort. Just by intently focusing your thought in this way, the womb entrances will certainly be obstructed. Should the womb entrances not be successfully obstructed through this method, and you are nonetheless drawn ever nearer to entering the womb, then second, meditate now on the spiritual teacher and consort as being your personal meditational deities, whichever these may be. Or if you do not have a personal meditational deity, meditate on the spiritual teacher and consort as being Mahakarunika and his consort. Again, make offerings, emanating these with your mind, and generate the thought very intently. I request the attainment of your spiritual accomplishment. Thereby, the womb entrances will be obstructed. So you're visualizing the meditational deity, and whatever they have accomplished, I'm saying, I want to accomplish the same thing. I want to be the deity. Next page. Should even this not obstruct the womb entrances, and you are still drawn ever nearer to entering the womb, the third method, this is 3 of 5, the third method, which reverses attachment and aversion, this third method, which reverses attachment and aversion, hatred and desire, is now to be revealed to you. There are 4 modes of birth: birth from an egg, birth from a womb, supernormal birth, birth from warmth and moisture. Among these, the birth of an egg and birth of a womb are very similar, in that both cases you will see the male and the female engaged in sexual union. As described above, if based on either attachment or aversion, you enter a womb at this time, you will be born as a horse, a bird, a dog, a human, or whatever is appropriate. If you are to be born as a male, you will experience the perceptions of a male. If you feel intense aversion towards the father, and you feel jealousy and attachment towards the mother, if you are to be born as a female, you will feel the perceptions of a female. You will feel intense envy and jealousy towards the mother, and you will feel intense attachment and affection towards the father. This emotional arousal will cause you to enter a womb. Here you will experience the co-emergent delight in the midst of the meeting between the sperm and the ovum. From that state of bliss, you will faint into consciousness, and as time passes, the embryo will come to maturity in the womb, moving through its various stages of development. That is, the clotting of the embryo, the oval elongation of the embryo, and so forth, until finally you will emerge from the womb and open your eyes. Now you have turned into a puppy. Previously, having been a human being, you will now have become a dog. So consequently, you will suffer in a dog kennel, or similarly in a pigsty, or an anthill, or a wormhole, or else you may be born as a baby bull, a goat, a sheep, and so forth. There is no way back. You will experience all manner of sufferings in a state of great obscurity and delusion. Through this process, you will continue to remain within the 6 classes of living beings, including the realms of the hell beings and the anguished spirits. You will be completely drained by boundless sufferings. There is nothing more awesome or frightening than this. Oh dear, this is truly terrifying. Oh dear, in this way, those who lack the oral instruction of a genuine spiritual teacher will indeed fall into the great abyss of cyclic existence and be tortured unbearably by continuous sufferings. Rather than this, listen to my words. Understand this instruction of mine. I will reveal an oral instruction which, third, obstructs the womb entrances through the reversal of attachment and the reversals of aversion. Listen and understand this well. It is said in the root verses of the 6 intermediate states, I must obstruct the womb entrances and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is a time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. I must give up all jealousy and meditate on my speecher with consort. As described in the oral instruction above, if you are to be born as a male, you will feel attachment towards the mother and aversion towards the father. If you are to be born as a female, you will feel attachment to the father and aversion towards the mother. Thus you will come to experience jealousy, a conflict of attachment and aversion. Specific to this stage, there is a profound oral instruction. So this whole section here that I just read is quite complex. And intellectually, it's really difficult to, I think, to really experience this. But on the cushion, through the meditative process, you can. And that's the opportunity we have. This becomes a meditative experience over and over and over again, to familiarize ourselves with this whole process as just laid out here. Missing this opportunity, I think, robs ourselves of the opportunity for liberation. So take it for what you think it is, and if you have the wherewithal to be able to do this, I don't think any one of us is terminally ill right now. Death is not imminent right now, and we have energy, and it's a question of what we want to spend our energy doing. Do we want to spend the remaining time that we have alive in being able to cultivate the embodiment of this pure nature of being able to liberate ourselves from what will become suffering if we don't? It's really that simple. So this is a meditative experience. It can't be intellectualized and accomplished successfully. We go through a process of intellectualization, but we have to experience it as the spirit entering the womb and joining with the ovum and with the sperm. So then, middle of page 186, it says, O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje. When the feelings of attachment and aversion arise, meditate as follows. Alas, sentient beings such as I, with such negative past actions, have up until now roamed in cyclic existence. I have committed to wander in this way, being driven on by my feelings of attachment and aversion. If especially at this time I continue to be influenced by attachment and aversion, there is a danger that I will roam into the limitlessly diverse states of cyclic existence and risk sinking into the ocean of suffering for a very long time. Therefore now, from this very beginning, I must not generate attachment or aversion. Oh dear, as of now, I shall never again be motivated by attachment or aversion. It's a decision. By concentrating intently on this thought, as it is said in the Tantras, the womb entrances will be obstructed by this singular intent alone. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Pema Dorje, do not be distracted. Concentrate your mind on this thought with one pointed intention. So This is very, very powerful. Any comment on this section here? Okay.
So just to reiterate, it sounds like the text is calling us to take our mind off kind of like the desire to find the physical body and to enter the point of union which creates physical body, so that we our mind is more focused more on inward as opposed to like outward things, and then the process of descent so into matter kind of is stopped and reversed, and then we go back to the spiritual realm.
Correct. And we're doing this in the Bardo of living, the present Bardo now. We have control of this. We need to control this. Or do we just read this one time and wish, hope, pray that we'll be able to do it when we become just pure spiritual body and our friends, our lamas, whatever, are reading this instruction to us and we can recognize this. So to use the expression, casting our fate to the wind. And with the illustration of being blown like a leaf in a wind is what is often referred to as, the karma. The karma is the wind and blowing us, the leaf, into all these directions that we have no control over. Our causes and conditions to be. So this is a time of great responsibility. And there is a shock value to this. We've talked about this before, that the drama that has been created by the imagery within here was part of the wisdom of Padmasambhava, and the masters who came after him to use this as shock value, for those disciples who really needed to be shaken out of their complacency to be able to take responsibility for their lives, this life and whatever life there may be coming in the future. What it is to be energy. Okay, so now the bottom of page 187, it says, yet if, even after having done this, the womb entrances are still not obstructed, and you draw ever nearer to entering a womb, the womb entrances should be obstructed by giving the fourth oral instruction. Remember, there's 5, so we just went through 3. Now here comes the 4th, another opportunity. The 4th oral instruction on the unreal and illusion-like nature of all phenomena. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchok Pema Dorje, meditate in the following way. Alas, the father and the mother in sexual union, the rain, the blackness, the hurricane, the thunderous sound, the fearful and terrifying experiences, the nature of these and of all phenomena is illusion-like. In whatever form phenomena arise, they are not real. All substantial things are unreal and false, like a mirage. They are not permanent. They are not changeless. So what is that purpose of my attachment to these perceptions? What is the purpose of my awe and terror? That which is non-existent, I am seeing as existent. In reality, all these things that I perceive are the perceptions of my own mind, intellectual mind. Yet the essential nature of mind is primordially non-existent, like an illusion. The essential nature of mind, the spiritual mind, like an illusion. So how is it possible for things to exist externally in their own right? Since I have not understood this before, I have always regarded the non-existent as existent. I have regarded the unreal as real. I have regarded illusions as truth. That is why I have roamed in cyclic existence for such a long time. Now, yet again, if I do not realize that all these phenomena are illusions, I will continue to roam in cyclic existence, interminably, and without doubt. I will drown in a swamp of every manner of suffering. Now I must realize that all these phenomena are completely devoid of substantial existence, even for an instant. In reality, they are like a dream, like an illusion, like an echo, like a celestial city, like a mirage, like a reflection, like an optical illusion, like the moon reflected in water. It is absolutely certain that these phenomena are not truly real, but that they are false. Through this singular resolve, I will blow apart my apprehension of their true existence. Through utter confidence in this meditation, my apprehension of self-existence will be reversed. By following from the depths of your heart that all these phenomena are unreal, the womb entrances will certainly be obstructed. So we repeat these prayers, this one 3 times, and the one that I recited on page 186 and 187, it doesn't say, but we repeat those 3 times, or more. But it's using the shock value of these images, these experiences, to be able to force us to realize this phenomenal nature is just a fabrication of our intellectual mind. And we've all agreed that to whatever degree we can make it seem that they're real. But it's all illusion. It's all temporary. We can say it's real for a certain space and time, but that space and time itself doesn't exist. And that's a mind blower. And it says here, the last sentence on page 189 in that prayer says, through this singular resolve, I will blow apart my apprehension of their true existence. I will blow my mind. And you question everything. I can tell you from my own personal experience, you will question your sanity. And through the support of all of this, it helps us to recognize that all this is here for our benefit. This is all part of the Dharma. This is part of the gift of our Buddha nature, of the Buddha, of Padmasambhava, of all the great masters, and so on, to support us through this whole experience of blowing apart what we consider to be our humanness. All that we attach to becomes the impediment that keeps us from being free. And as you engage in this, you find your own words for this. No doubt many of you are going to be much more authoritative and articulate than I can be. But with my limited ability, I introduce it to you. And this is for everyone, you know. Everyone in the sense that every human being is capable of recognizing this, but that doesn't mean that every human being is ready to recognize this. So now, page 190, the top of the page. It says, "O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu Kunchuk Pema Dorje, if even after having engaged in the above meditation, the womb entrances have still not been obstructed, now, according to the fifth profound oral instruction, you must obstruct the womb entrances by meditating on inner radiance. This method of meditation is as follows. Alas, all seemingly substantial phenomena are expressions of my own mind. Yet, in reality, this mind is of the nature of emptiness. It is beyond creation and beyond cessation." What mind is that? Is it our intellectual mind? Is it our spiritual mind? How do we define mind? Is mind just another concept? And coming to realization of this, experience of this, is this fifth method of closing the womb. By focusing your thought in this way, your mind should naturally return to an uncontrived and stainless state. Let the mind rest in this, its natural state, directly in itself, in the same way, for example, as water is poured into water. Let the mind rest in the natural flow, clear, unconstricted, uncontrived, and relaxed. By following this method, you can be sure that the womb entrances of the four modes of rebirth will certainly be obstructed. Meditate again and again in this way until the womb entrances are closed. So this inner radiance, the radiance that is like the sun, we use that, the sun as a metaphor. The sun just radiates light. It has no meaning to the sun. It's just what it does. That radiance comes out and lands on an object, and that object becomes luminous. The earth is illuminated by the radiance of the sun. We are illuminated by the radiance of the sun. So that radiance, that essence of the absolute, the source of the display of phenomenal nature, the ultimate reality, the phenomenal reality we talked about long time ago. We live in this ultimate reality, we live in this phenomenal reality until we're able to illuminate it and realize that this phenomenal nature is the ultimate reality. And we only see the phenomenal. We accept that that's what's real. So there's one more thing to recite at this time. And so if we go back to page 171, this is the daily prayer that we recite in this at this time during the part 3, the 3 parts: the elucidation, the obstruction of the womb entrances, and the closing and the choosing of womb entrances. At the conclusion of each one of those, because we segment them in days, we go back and we recite this prayer. Page 171. O child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, Kunchok Pema Dorje. In short, since your awareness during this intermediate state lacks any material support, it is light and volatile, and therefore whatever virtuous or non-virtuous perceptions arise, these are very powerful. Do not be absorbed by non-virtuous thoughts. Call to mind the virtuous practices of your past. Even if you did not engage in virtuous practices during your life, maintain purity of perception and deep devotion. Pray to your meditational deity or to Mahakarunika, and with a powerful longing repeat the following aspirational prayer. Now when I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate state be annulled. When I experience suffering as the result of negative past actions, may the meditational deity, Mahakarunika, dispel all such misery. And as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be transformed into the resonance of the 6 syllables, Om Mani Padme Hum. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the great compassionate one, Mahakarunika, protect me. And as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise. Say this aspirational prayer with ardent longing. It will certainly lead you onto the path. Be absolutely certain that this aspirational prayer will not deceive you. This is most important. Recite many times. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. So the language that we recite this whole entire text in, English, Spanish, Sanskrit, whatever language, is just creating vibration and going out and so on. But it's the syllables Om Mani Padme Hum Shri that are succinct and powerful enough that with them we can generate the light from each of those symbols, each of those syllables, that is radiating out to all the beings in the 6 realms, purifying them and giving them guidance through the Bardo, through their present lives. Om Mani Padme Hum right now is being recited by hundreds of thousands of people around the world. That vibration is here from the time that it was recited by all the great masters. And we're tuning into that and allowing that to radiate like the sun radiates its energy, its pure energy, without any regard of anything coming back, selflessly, going out to all beings. So everything that we've been reading, reciting, has been for our benefit, to be able to purify ourselves, to develop one-pointed mindfulness so that we can generate that light going out to all those beings flawlessly. A dead person who's been long buried, who's been long cremated, who's been eaten by the birds and the dogs, they're not going to recognize these words. But the light is something different. And even that, you can say, is conceptual. but it's another step in the right direction. So we recite, Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 So to recite that with deep conviction, deep meaning, deep understanding beyond the words, whether we recite it one time or 101 times or many more times, to be able to recite it with that heartfelt meaning is the most important thing. So, any comments or questions?
I thought it was interesting how I went back. The fifth and fourth were about emptiness, and I wanted to go back and look at the first couple instructions. I forget what 1 and 2 were.
Well, one begins on page 178.
Okay.
So the first two obstruct the womb entrances by obstructing the person and by obstructing the womb.
All right. So it's the meditation deity. Visualizing the meditation deity. And then
and the third is to reverse the attachment and aversion to the father and mother.
that was interesting. That part with the father and mother sounded very Freudian.
Yes, indeed. It's amazing what Freud discovered had been already discovered 1,000 years before. Articulated.
Rediscovered, I guess.
Huh?
Rediscovered.
Well, yes. And thank goodness. I mean, he helped many people, I think. But Jung took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 4, the fourth method was the unreal and illusion-like nature of all phenomena.
Right, the emptiness. And then the fifth was kind of the emptiness of emptiness.
Well, it was to meditate on the inner radiance. Seeing yourself as the source.
Say it again.
To see yourself as the source. As the sun is a metaphor, the radiant energy of the sun, to see yourself as that radiance of that energy.
Would you say that the same as seeing your perceptions as it's you're the source of everything, including the perceptions that you perceived as empty, or even the source of the decision that those perceptions are empty?
Yeah, and that's why they said just a minute ago why this is all natural in the phenomenal sense. All our fears, all our confusions are all natural in the phenomenal sense.
Mm-hmm.
But to realize that that, in essence, is illusion, and that reality becomes the radiance. So it's truly transcendent. Our words, fail us, but that's all we have to intellectualize this process and to communicate with each other.
So the second one, the first one is meditating on the meditation deity, but then the second one is meditating on the the inherent lacking of existence of the meditation deity, like the emptiness of the meditation deity. Would you agree? It says because it
That's
says
right.
it's like
That's
really
right.
lacking inherent existence, like the reflection.
And that's the Sambhogagaya.
Mm-hmm.
Sambhogagaya is a display.
Mm-hmm.
So remember, we talk about that the Dharmakaya is the truth body, and the Sambhogagaya and the Nirmanakaya are servants to the Dharmakaya.
Mm-hmm.
They are displays of the Dharmakaya in order that we as human beings and whatever other beings can have the ability to be able to cognize, that there is this phenomena, however you want to express it, and see that it's all just, we think we invented this or something like that. And to that degree, we did. We articulated this to mean this, and we agree on that articulation. Alex, what do you think?
Yes, well, from what I see, I mean, this text explains, and that it seems that it suggests that according to our propensities or karmic, actions or past experiences, we'll be drawn to different opportunities for rebirth. Like maybe it will be human, maybe it will be animals, maybe it will be insects or other different ways to receive a body and be born. And it's only if we also have this ability to withdraw from outside, to if we have ability to understand illusions as they are, then we can focus on our inner light or focus on the empty nature of the mind. And then my question is, what happens to these wombs that we come across? Like, is it like someone else gets there and so we just wait until all that passes away, or
That's part of the phenomena.
or we we pull ourselves away from it. Like,
We have no control over that, but it doesn't exist anyway. It's all just a rainbow-like explanation of how this manifests, this energy and so on. It's all just energy, right?
yes. So I
So this
guess,
the whole Bardo Thodol itself is just a treatise on energy, manifesting or remaining energy.
yes, but I guess I wonder if you heard any like commentary or like how do we know that the entrance to the womb is actually closed? Like what
My friend, I'm going to say one thing to you: practice.
yes.
There's nothing I can say that can convince you until you practice yourself and have the experience yourself.
Yeah, that certainly is important element.
It's the essential element.
It is yes, it is essentially.
Well, you gave that example earlier, Pema Dorje, about meditation, and if you just take it back to your sitting meditation and just think of it really mundane. When you're doing your sitting practice, how do you know that you're not following a thought and you've let it go?
You'll know.
Yeah, you know, a
There's
lot
a,
of times,
there's a gnosis.
as soon as you know you're following it, then you know. And then the whole time you're following it, you don't really know. You're just following. Yeah.
You're nowhere.
Yeah.
You're the nowhere
You're
man.
in the womb entrance is open until you realize you're not there.
Right?
Until you realize it's open, I guess, then you're not there. Then it's no
Right.
longer
Well, you're
open.
on the other side.
Yeah. I really like that example that makes it more, you can get lost in all these imagery and all these things, when this happened, when that happened, and all this complicated imagery. But if you just bring it back to the practice of meditation and letting go of thoughts and coming back to the present moment, that makes it a lot easier to see.
So this whole processes of do I understand right that this whole process of these images coming up and our part of our consciousness trying to find place of the rebirth and the other maybe our true self is it would try to stay neutral and not be engaged in that kind of karmic flow. So then we just like if we manage to do this stably enough, then these processes gradually subside and then we um go go back to spiritual realm, so to speak, or some Buddha field or something like that.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, um that kind of brings home a lot of and puts more deeper meaning into practices that we do. So it's not just like for this life to avoid suffering, but it's also for uh, intermediate state not to get birth and experience more suffering. Yeah.
And everybody has the potential. It's so profound and so simple, but that's what makes it so difficult. It's because it's letting go, and we want to hold on. We have the desire, we have the hatred, we have the jealousy, the afflictive emotions, the afflictive poisons, the mental misconception, and the habitual tendencies. We keep holding on to those. That's where our personality is. That's where a human being hides. They hide in the system. Well, I'm glad to talk
Right.
about it. If anybody has anything more you want to say, otherwise we'll recite the two concluding prayers, which I think are going to have more meaning to you now than they have before.
Yes, let's do.
All right, so we go to page 207. So I'm going to ask French, and when we're in a meeting like this, and there's different people, in and so on, and to recite these things slowly and purposefully and with some meaning to the English language, which is, the context of way these things are voiced and everything, I think adds to the profundity of it and the way that we understand it. I've had the privilege of being at retreats where there were 3,000 monastics. And those 3,000 monastics each come from different monasteries. And each of the monasteries are going to have their melodies for the same prayers. Some are going to say it very fast. Some are going to say it very slow. Some are going to say it like Sanskrit. Some are going to say it like Tibetan. They're all going to have their way of doing it. But when there are 3,000 people together in that environment like that, they say it, the chant master is charged with the responsibility of making it plain for everybody. So they say it's slow. They say each syllable has its own weight, the same weight as the syllable before and after. And it continues along in that way. And they're schooled in that process and so on. So when we recite things fast and so on, I think sometimes we can lose ourselves, we can lose each other in it. So I'm going to ask French if he will recite these last two prayers, if you don't mind, French. If you want me, I'll recite one, because you and I can do it slowly in this. We recognize that point of doing it slowly when you're in a group setting. It's important. I think it's important.
I will do my best. Thank you for allowing me to try.
So we're on page 207.
Uh, the aspirational prayer, which rescues from the dangerous pathways of the intermediate states. I bow down to the spiritual teachers, meditational deities, and dakinis. May I be guided on the path of their great love. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by deep-seated bewilderment, may the spiritual teachers, holders of the oral lineages, draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant, clear light, which is undistracted study, reflection, and meditation. May the supreme consorts, the hosts of dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by deep-seated delusion, may the transcendent Lord, Vairocana, draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant blue light, which is the pristine cognition of reality's expanse. May the Supreme Consort, Akasadavishvari, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated aversion, may the transcendent Lord Vajrasattva Akshobhya draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant white light, which is the mirror-like, pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consort, Buddha Lokana, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by deep-seated pride, may the transcendent Lord Ratnasambhava draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant yellow light, which is the pristine cognition of sameness. May the Supreme Consort, Mamaki, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated attachment, may the transcendent Lord Amitabha draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant red light, which is the pristine cognition of discernment. May the Supreme Consort, Pandaravashini, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated envy, may the transcendent Lord Amoghasiddhi draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant green light, which is the pristine cognition of accomplishment. May the Supreme Consort Samayatara support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by the 5 virulent poisons, may the transcendent conquerors, the male Buddhas of the 5 enlightened families, draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant rainbow light, which is the 4 pristine cognitions combined. May the 5 supreme female Buddhas, the purity of the expanse, support me from behind. And thus encircled, may I be rescued from the light paths of the 6 impure classes of beings and be escorted to the 5 utterly supreme and pure Buddha fields. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant multicolored light, which is co-emergent pristine cognition. May the Supreme Consorts, the hosts of Dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by deep-seated, bewildering perceptions, may the assembly of blood-drinking, wrathful, fierce deities draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant rainbow light, which is free of fear and terrifying perceptions. May the assembly of the Krodeshvari, queens of the expanse, support me from behind, and thus encircled, may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the level of an utterly perfect Buddha. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. May the fields of the 5 elements not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the fields of the 5 Buddhas. May the elements of space not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the field of the blue Buddha. May the elements of water not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the field of the white Buddha. May the elements of earth not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the field of the yellow Buddha. May the elements of fire not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the field of the red Buddha. May the elements of wind not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the field of the green Buddha. May the awesome sounds, lights, and rays not arise as a hostile force. May I see them as the infinite fields of the peaceful and wrathful deities. May the rainbow-colored elements not rise up as a hostile force. May I see them as the fields of the manifold Buddhas. May I recognize all sounds as my own sounds. May I recognize all lights as my own lights. May I recognize all rays as my own rays. May I spontaneously recognize the characteristics of the intermediate states. May the fields of the three Buddha bodies be manifest. Samaya. The aspirational prayer which protects from the fear of the intermediate states. When my life's course is ended and I roam alone in the intermediate states, the loved ones of this world can no longer help me. So at this critical time, may the conquerors, the peaceful and wrathful deities, quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the deep darkness of my ignorance be dispelled. When I roam alone, separated from my loved ones, and myriad images of emptiness arise, naturally manifesting, may the Buddhas quickly release the power of their compassion, and may the fear of the awesome and terrifying intermediate state be annulled. When the five radiant lights of pristine cognition dawn, may I recognize them as my own nature, and without awe and without terror, and as the manifold forms of the peaceful and wrathful, fierce deities arise, may I be fearlessly confident and recognize the characteristics of the intermediate states. When I experience suffering as the result of negative past actions, may the great compassionate one, Mahakaranika, dispel all such misery, and as the natural sound of reality reverberates like 1,000 peals of thunder, may all sounds be heard as the teachings of the greater vehicle. When I am driven on by past actions, unable to find a refuge, may the meditational deities dispel all such misery, and as I experience the suffering of habitual tendencies and past actions, may the meditative stabilities of inner radiance and bliss naturally arise. When I am miraculously born into the intermediate state of rebirth, may I not be beguiled by the perverse prophecies of Mara, and as I freely arrive at every place that I think of, may the bewildering fear and terror generated by my negative past actions not arise. When the roars of savage wild beasts echo around me, may their cries be transformed into the sound of the sacred teachings, the 6 syllables. Om Mani Padme Hum. And as I am engulfed by snow, rain, wind, and darkness, may I achieve the pure clairvoyance of radiant, pristine cognition. May sentient beings in the intermediate states, similar in kind to myself, be born into the higher realms, free from rivalry. And as severe, dissonant mental states generate insatiable hunger and thirst, may the afflictions of hunger, thirst, heat, and cold be annulled. When I see my future parents in union, may I perceive them as Mahakaranika and consort, and for the sake of others, being blessed with the power to choose a birthplace, may I achieve an exalted body, adorned with the auspicious major and minor marks. Once I have achieved birth in a supreme human form, may I act so as to swiftly liberate all who see and hear me, and may I not be influenced by my negative past actions, but multiply and emulate my past merits. Wherever I may be born, in whatever land it may be, may I quickly encounter the meditational deity of my past lives, knowing from immediately after birth how to speak and walk. May I remember my past lives and attain the power of non-forgetfulness. May I easily come to master by study and reflection the manifold stages of learning, small, intermediate, and great. May the country into which I am born be auspicious, and may all sentient beings be blessed with happiness. O peaceful and wrathful, fierce conquerors, may I and all others become entirely at one with you and come to resemble you in all your forms, your retinues, your lifespan, and your Buddha fields, and in every quality of your supreme auspicious marks. Through the compassion of Samantabhadra and the infinite peaceful and wrathful deities, by the power of the truth of pure reality, and by the blessing of the mantrants who practice one-pointedly, may every wish of this aspirational prayer be fulfilled. Samaya, composed by the preceptor from Udayana Padmakara, may this profound sacred teaching not be extinguished until all the worlds of cyclic existence have been emptied. This is a treasure text of Tulku Karma Lingpa. Mangala Shri Dvala Jambudvipa Alankara Bhavantu. By the virtue of this Dharma work, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and attain enlightenment. Sarvamangalam. May all beings and activities be auspicious for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings.
Om. Ah.
Ah,
Om.
Om,
Om.
Om,
Ah.
Ah,
Om.
Om,
Om.
Om,
Ah.
Ah,
Om.
Om.
May my
May
body,
my body,
speech,
speech,
and
and
mind
mind
become inseparable
inseparable
with the
from my
body,
body,
speech,
speech,
and mind
and mind
of all the enlightened ones
once
for the benefit of all
of
sentient beings.
beings.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, French. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Kunganima and Alex. Thank you.
Thanks. See you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Okay. See you then.
Thank you. Luckily I was able to find